Two rising stars, once connected by friendship and shared moments away from competition, suddenly found themselves cast as rivals under the brightest spotlight in tennis, and the entire sport took notice. Eala and Iva Jovic, two of the WTA Tour's most promising young talents, had recently been seen enjoying the lighter side of tour life together, exchanging smiles, celebrating birthdays, and creating memories on the practice courts at Roland Garros, forming a connection that seemed to extend beyond rankings and results. For much of the season, their paths moved side by side through training sessions, victories, and public moments that reflected genuine camaraderie rather than rivalry. That is what made everything feel so surprising when the atmosphere changed overnight. During the live YouTube reveal of the Roland Garros 2026 first-round draw, a single matchup announcement altered the narrative instantly. One line on the bracket transformed a story of friendship into a high-stakes confrontation and placed them directly in each other's path in a showdown no one had anticipated. From that point forward, the moments of laughter and off-court familiarity faded into the background, replaced by the unforgiving reality of elite competition and the demand to survive on one of sport's most challenging stages. This became the story of Eala versus Iva Jovic at Roland Garros 2026, a meeting shaped by friendship, ambition, and fate, where the two things they valued most suddenly stood in direct opposition across the net. Reflecting on relationships formed on tour, one of them described those connections as feeling like family, explaining that such bonds help make the pressure of professional tennis more manageable even when the nature of the sport inevitably turns friends into opponents. She noted that after playing so many tournaments together, athletes understand how to separate personal relationships from competition, emphasizing that there is no need to treat situations like this differently. You do not change the relationship, you simply carry on as usual. Yet to truly understand why this matchup carried such intensity and captured so much attention, you have to look at the journeys behind both players, beginning with Eala, who was born in the Philippines on May 23, 2005. Just 2 days before the French Open main draw officially began, Eala reached a milestone that made the moment feel even more symbolic, turning 21 while already standing inside the grounds of Roland Garros, celebrating quietly with the close-knit group of tennis friends she had formed through years of traveling and competing on tour. It was a fitting setting for a player whose journey had never followed a typical path. A left-hander developed at the renowned Rafa Nadal Academy in Manacor, Spain, Eala emerged from one of the toughest and most respected training systems in modern tennis, an environment known for demanding discipline, resilience, and tactical excellence. Those influences can be seen throughout her game. Composed under pressure, fearless in execution, and designed to endure the physical and mental demands of long clay court battles. Her rise has already delivered experiences that once seemed impossible, sharing courts with figures who helped define the sport, competing on stages she had spent years watching from afar, and living moments that still feel unreal even to her. She has spoken openly and emotionally about those opportunities, describing the experience of competing alongside players she admired growing up as an honor and a memory she intends to carry forever. But beyond personal achievement lies the larger significance of what her success represents. Eala became the first player from the Philippines to reach this level in the modern era of tennis, a breakthrough that carried meaning far beyond rankings. In a nation of more than 100 million people, no tennis player had climbed this high before. So when she entered the top 50, the moment stopped belonging only to her. It became a landmark for an entire country, a shared achievement that inspired millions and created a feeling that one of their own had opened a door no one had reached before. Yet recognition at that scale brings its own unseen burden, because each time she walks onto the court, she does so carrying expectations that extend beyond herself, representing a flag and a nation whether she chooses to feel that weight or not. And throughout her 2026 clay season, that reality seemed to follow every step she took. Her 2026 clay court campaign became a season defined by both progress and disappointment, a stretch of 5 tournaments that ended with a 4-5 record and left Eala searching for answers as much as results. There were meaningful breakthroughs along the way, including impressive victories over Magdalena Frech and Wang Xinyu at the Italian Open that carried her into the round of 32, along with a standout win in Madrid against former Roland Garros finalist Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, a performance that reinforced the belief that she belonged on tennis' biggest stages. Yet those encouraging moments were balanced by difficult setbacks. A defeat to Elena Rybakina in Rome reminded her of the gap still to close at the highest level, and an especially frustrating first-round exit in Strasbourg, just before Roland Garros, saw her lose in 3 sets to an opponent ranked outside the top 60. That result meant she arrived in Paris needing something more valuable than points in the standings. She needed reassurance, momentum, and confirmation that the countless hours of preparation were finally becoming tangible progress. Waiting on the other side of the draw was Iva Jovic, the American teenager born in 2007, who entered Roland Garros 2026 at only 18 years old and already carried the distinction of being ranked world number 17, a position that reflected not a slow climb, but an explosive rise into tennis elite. Her game had quickly earned attention for its speed, balance, and attacking quality from both sides, but especially for a two-handed backhand down the line that analysts no longer spoke of as potential. It had become a proven weapon capable of changing matches in an instant. Her 2026 season already resembled the resume of a player who was not simply projected to become the future of the sport, but was actively influencing its present. She began the year with a quarterfinal appearance at the Australian Open before eventually being stopped by Aryna Sabalenka, built on earlier success that included claiming her first WTA singles title at the Guadalajara Open Akron in 2025, adding a WTA 125 title in Ilkley, and finishing as runner-up in Hobart to establish momentum entering the clay season. Through the 2026 campaign alone, she compiled a 21-10 record across 15 tournaments, further proving her consistency. Then in Rome, she delivered another statement by pushing reigning Roland Garros champion Coco Gauff to 3 sets in the round of 16 and even reaching match point before narrowly falling short. By that stage, she was no longer being introduced as a promising newcomer. She had already become a legitimate force competing with conviction at the sport's highest level. 2 remarkable young players, representing 2 different nations and shaped by entirely different journeys, had somehow arrived at the same destination. But before rankings, expectations, and competition transformed the narrative into a rivalry, there was another connection at the center of this story, the friendship that came first. Because without that connection, this would simply be another match on the schedule. But the story became something much deeper than tennis. Their friendship began in Auckland, New Zealand, during the ASB Classic in January 2026, where Eala and Iva Jovic were unexpectedly paired together in the women's doubles draw. On one side stood Eala, the composed Filipino left-hander known for staying calm in the sport's most intense moments. On the other was Jovic, the fearless American teenager whose backhand had already developed a reputation for disrupting rhythm and overwhelming opponents. Together, their combined age totaled just 38 years, still younger than the duo waiting across the net in their opening match. Venus Williams, the 5-time Wimbledon champion, and former world number 3 Elena Vesnina. It looked like a difficult introduction to their partnership, but instead of shrinking under the occasion, they delivered one of the most surprising performances of the event. In their very first appearance as a team, they produced a remarkable 7-6, 6-1 victory, with Eala saving 7 set points during a dramatic opening set tiebreak against Williams and helping launch their season together with a statement few expected. It was the kind of performance that forces people to pay attention immediately. What happened afterward only strengthened the connection fans were beginning to notice. A playful social media exchange between the two quickly became a favorite moment online. When attention turned toward Eala's clutch play, Jovic responded with lighthearted humor, joking, says the one who saved all the set points. It felt natural, relaxed, and completely genuine. 2 young athletes enjoying each other's company in a sport more often associated with pressure, structure, and emotional distance. Fans instantly connected with that authenticity. Their doubles run continued with momentum as they advanced all the way to the semifinals before eventually being stopped by the 3rd-seeded Chinese team of Zhang Shuai and Yang Zhaoxian. Months later, their paths crossed again as doubles partners at Indian Wells, although that campaign ended quickly with a first-round defeat to Juliana Olmos and Hailey Baptiste. Still, The results no longer. During her French Open press conference, Eala revealed something far more personal than tactics, rankings, or match preparation. Speaking about life on tour, she explained that the friendships she has built with fellow players have become essential to her experience, admitting that she cannot imagine surviving the demands of professional tennis without them. To her, those relationships go beyond shared practice sessions or tournament schedules. They are not simply connections formed through the sport, but friendships she believes will last long after careers end. She spoke about the countless moments, conversations, and experiences players share throughout an exhausting year on the road and described those bonds as something deeply meaningful. Friends for life was the phrase she used, and that made everything that followed feel even more powerful, because one of those same friends was now standing on the opposite side of the draw at Roland Garros. Before the rivalry could mean anything, the friendship had to be understood first, because without that history this would be nothing more than another tennis match, and this story had already become much larger than that. It all started in Auckland, New Zealand, at the ASB Classic in January 2026, where Eala and Iva Jovic were paired together in the women's doubles event. Eala arrived as the composed Filipino left-hander known for staying calm in the biggest moments, while Jovic brought the fearless energy of an American teenager whose backhand had already earned a reputation for ending rallies and changing matches in an instant. Suddenly, they were teammates. Together, their combined age was only 38, remarkably younger than the decorated pair waiting across the net in round one. The legendary Venus Williams, owner of 5 Wimbledon titles, and former world number 3 Elena Vesnina. On paper, it looked like an impossible opening challenge. Instead, in their very first appearance as partners, Eala and Jovic delivered a performance that immediately captured attention across the tennis world, defeating their experienced opponents 7-6, 6-1. The opening set alone became a defining moment. Eala saved 7 set points, repeatedly holding her nerve in a tense tiebreak against Venus Williams and showing extraordinary composure at the beginning of a new season. It was the kind of performance that introduces a partnership before anyone has time to expect it. What happened afterward only made people connect with them more. Their post-match interaction on social media quickly turned into a small viral moment when Jovic responded with playful timing and joked, "Says the one who saved all the set points." The exchange felt natural, funny, and completely unfiltered, 2 teenagers enjoying success together in a sport that often leaves little room for spontaneity or youth. Fans responded immediately because the connection felt real. Their momentum continued as the partnership reached the ASB Classic semifinals before eventually losing to the third-seeded Chinese duo of Zhang Shuai and Yang Zhaoxian. Months later, they reunited once again at Indian Wells, although that campaign ended with a first-round defeat to Juliana Olmos and Hailey Baptiste. But by then, the results had become secondary. What mattered most was everything being built between the matches, the trust, the memories, and a friendship that had quietly grown into something stronger than competition. That be why March 2026, when Eala was asked in an interview about the relationships she had formed while traveling the tour, the way she answered made it obvious that these connections meant far more to her than temporary doubles partnerships or casual interactions between tournaments. Speaking about her time alongside Iva Jovic, she said, "This week, I've played with Iva Jovic. We're really good friends. She's super fun." And the way she said it felt effortless and sincere, less like an athlete describing a teammate, and more like someone talking about a friendship built through shared experiences and genuine trust. As she expanded on the wider circle she had developed on tour, mentioning players such as Eva Liss and Zeynep Sonmez, her reflections revealed just how important those relationships had become in helping her navigate the demands of professional tennis. During her pre-French Open press conference, she explained that those friendships were essential to her life on the road, admitting that she could hardly imagine enduring the constant travel and pressure without them. To her, they were not simply tennis friends. They had become lifelong connections, people she shared experiences with throughout the year, and relationships she believed would outlast the sport itself. Friends for life. That was the phrase she used. And that is exactly what made the next chapter feel so dramatic, because one of those friends was suddenly no longer standing beside her, but waiting across the net at Roland Garros. This was the moment the story changed. The Roland Garros 2026 draw was unveiled during a live YouTube broadcast. One of those modern sports moments where fans across different countries stop everything and watch together in real time. In the Philippines, supporters stayed awake waiting for Eala's name to appear. In the United States, Jovic's rapidly growing fanbase followed with the same anticipation. Then the bracket filled in, and for a brief second, everything seemed to pause before the reaction erupted. First round, Alexandra Eala versus Iva Jovic. Online, the response split instantly. For Filipino fans, the draw felt like a shockwave. Their rising star, making only her second main draw appearance at Roland Garros, had been matched immediately against a seeded top 20 opponent. But what made it emotional was not the ranking. It was the identity of the opponent. This was not a stranger. This was someone she had shared practice courts with, celebrated victories alongside, exchanged jokes with, and built doubles memories with only months earlier. Then came the detail that made the moment feel almost too perfectly timed to be real. The draw had been revealed just 2 days after Eala's 21st birthday. And on that birthday, Iva Jovic had been there, smiling beside her, celebrating with her, sharing what seemed like an ordinary happy moment, unaware that only days later they would be standing on opposite sides of one of the biggest stages in tennis. And that same Iva Jovic, the friend who had been celebrating beside Alex Eala only moments earlier in the larger story of their season, was suddenly the person waiting across the net on the biggest clay court stage in the world. The contrast felt almost impossible to ignore. Just days earlier, Jovic had brought Eala a birthday cake on the Roland Garros practice grounds. Picture that moment for what it was. Two friends laughing beneath the Paris sky, taking photos, sharing a quiet celebration while the tennis world moved around them, unaware that those ordinary memories were about to become part of something much bigger. One social media post captured the mood perfectly, with a birthday message and a group photo celebrating together in the city, often associated with romance and unforgettable moments. Later that evening, they went out for a simple birthday dinner. No headlines, no pressure, no sense that anything was about to change. They were just friends enjoying a night in Paris. Then the draw was revealed, and everything shifted. In the press conference that followed, Eala addressed the situation with the kind of composure and perspective that has often made her seem more experienced than her years. She explained that when players have to face friends, they learn to separate competition from personal relationships. The words sounded straightforward, but beneath them was something far more emotional. The acknowledgement that caring about someone does not disappear simply because the schedule says one of you has to win and the other has to lose. Both players expressed versions of the same reality. It was difficult. There was no pretending otherwise. Yet both also committed to giving fans a match worthy of Roland Garros, understanding that professional tennis sometimes demands an uncomfortable balance between personal connection and ruthless competition. You care deeply, and then you compete anyway. The emotions arrive afterward. But the challenge extended far beyond one opening round match. The draw itself created a brutal path ahead. If Eala advanced, potential meetings with Emma Navarro or Jasmine Paolini waited in the second round, with Naomi Osaka positioned deeper in the section and world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka standing at the top of the draw. Analysts quickly described it as one of the most unforgiving sections any WTA player had received at Roland Garros that year, and some commentary framed it even more sharply as a nightmare scenario for the Filipino star. Every match suddenly carried the intensity and consequence of a final. Yet before any of those possibilities could become reality, the first challenge remained the most emotionally complicated of all. Alex Eala and Iva Jovic arrived in Paris as close friends. What the tournament demanded next was something neither of them had truly rehearsed for: to stand across from someone who mattered to them and compete with the intensity of strangers while carrying the weight of everything they had shared before. That is not cruelty, and it is not tragedy. It is sport in one of its most revealing forms. Because moments like these strip away comfort and show character, exposing who you become when the stakes are highest and the person on the other side of the net is someone whose success and happiness genuinely matter to you, and no matter what the scoreboard ultimately says in that opening round match. Alex Eala and Iva Jovic leave Paris with something that extends far beyond a win or a loss. The realization that they have already begun creating a story people will remember long after the tournament ends. Because from this point forward, Every time these two share a court,